So we are now down like 800 points, 850 points basically. That's not good. Well, I hope everybody's riding this out well enough. All right, so first things first, we decided to knock off the STP. It's obviously up a ridiculous amount, even with the adjustment. Apparently, we had a problem with the split of Tesla, and somehow it didn't get recorded right. And one of the members, Alex, was looking at it, and he said there was a mark-to-market issue of the pricing and such. So the bottom line is discrepancy. He came up with $140,000, and whether it's that much or not, it doesn't really matter. The point is it's inaccurate. So, and also as I was thinking about it, I was like, it's not really reflecting the proper. It's not reflecting what somebody who's starting from scratch right now would be able to do as far as hedging. So I figured, why not just kill it, start from scratch with a clean portfolio, and make sure we have the kind of hedging that you would do in this situation. And frankly, cashing in a huge winning portfolio in any respect is what you want to do in this situation. And we can always build in more hedges. We don't have to build in, let's take a look at it. A bull call spread, for example, that we just took up on, I did on TQQQ or SQQQ, sorry, in the morning report. La-ti-da. Here it is. On his face, yeah. Wait, no, that's last week. That's funny. Wait, let's go back to that though. That's kind of funny. Okay, last week, stimulus hopes hold off disaster so far. And you guys know, it's like, I hate sounding like a broker. I hate sounding like that guy. Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute, all right? Because I'm sorry. This is for future reference. I want you to understand. Last week I said we are flirting with disaster at the 3420 line, but so far it's holding up on endless promises of endless stimulus. Currently, over 10% of our GDP is on the table, being pumped into the economy, etc. I said Pelosi and McConnell are probably not going to work it out. That's exactly what happened. I said the dollar's down, which is propping up the market, and when the dollar finally bounces, it's going to hurt us. And that was here a week ago when it was at 92.50. Now it's up 1%. And that's one of the things that drives the market down is when the dollar goes up. I talked about Lagarde and the ECB and so on and so forth. We talked about the virus is going to be resurging. I mean, I don't like to be this guy. I really don't. It's a depressing time in world events. We have problems. Like basically the most problems we've had in my lifetime, as far as I can tell. I mean, I guess Vietnam was a problem when I was born. But Vietnam wasn't at home. Vietnam wasn't destroying our economy. This is horrifying. And people don't understand the impact of what's going on. And it bothers me, and that's why I keep harping on about it, because I get, of course I'm wrong sometimes, and I'm not always accurate, but I'm pretty good at predicting the future. And I'm pretty good and that's because I'm good at seeing patterns and understanding what leads to what. And I've got a pretty good grip on like history and what has happened in the past and what's likely to happen in the future. I'm very good with my numbers, even though I mix them up all the time, but in my brain they work. And I'm very good. I'm a very good trend spotter. These are my skills. And when I see something going completely off the rails, and then I watch in the chat room the kind of trades people are talking about and the kind of actions people are talking about, and the general lack of concern for these things that I think are a virtual certainty to happen. And I'm sorry, but it's like I know it comes across like annoying, and I know it comes across like obviously not fun either. I'm not here to be annoying. I'm not here to be a stick in the mud for this whole thing. But realistically, this is a terrible, dangerous time in our country. And it's my job to comment on it, and I'm not going to choose to whitewash what's happening. And I apologize for that. I mean, it's, and again, I shouldn't apologize for it. It's what you're supposed to do. Somebody's got to say the truth. But I know you don't want to hear it over and over again. Some of you guys get it, and it's just depressing, and I get that. But this is some serious shit. We have made a big mess, and it's not being cleaned up, and it's not being fixed, and it's getting messier. And that's not a political statement. That's just a fact of what's happening. And yeah, I blame Donald Trump, sure. I don't blame Donald Trump for the virus. I blame Donald Trump for his reaction to the virus, or lack of reaction to the virus. I blame Donald Trump for a bunch of shitty things he's done. But this is the last straw. And I don't mean the last straw like, oh, now I'm not going to vote for him. I was never going to vote for him. But I mean, come on. It's like, it's, again, not political. I'm trying to save the world. I'm trying to save my children. I'm trying to make sure we all have a future. I'm trying to make sure we have an economy down the road. That's what I care about. Yeah, so again, I don't like to be harping on about this stuff. And it's funny because I remember when Bush was president. I didn't like him either. I'll admit that. Let's see. Okay, I didn't like Bush. I like Clinton, but I was critical of Clinton. He did some screwed up things, and I was critical, but it wasn't not as screwed up as everyone made it out to be for the Republicans. But I mean, he got a blowjob and he gets impeached. It's like, it's hysterical compared to Trump. So I was critical of Clinton for things, not that, but of certain ways he ran stuff. Bush Senior, just asshole, but not a bad president, frankly. Fine, he's typical normal president. Coming in after Reagan, I mean, good and bad stuff for Reagan. Good for the feeling of the country, good for leadership aspect and so on and so forth, but not necessarily good on a functional aspect. And obviously, his tax policy set us on a road to debt. So anyway, Carter is too far back, wishy-washy. Anyway, so I don't know. Is it a coincidence that I turned Democrat? I don't know. I mean, my parents weren't really big Democrats or anything like that. Well, my stepfather, anyway, my father was a socialist, but he wasn't a Democrat. My father thought they were all idiots, but he was basically a socialist. That's where I get that from. Anyhow, so not trying to be political. I'm just upset about the country. I want to have it fixed. And, I'm sorry. So when Bush the second was president, I thought he sucked, and I said so, and people got mad at me. And, but then when Obama came in, I said, well, good, I'm going to be just as critical of Obama as I was about Bush. I mean, I felt that was fair and equal. If Obama does things I don't like, I would say something. He didn't do much I didn't like. Honestly, he was doing a lot of stuff I really thought was important, and he also had a tough job when he came in. Trump coasted in on a great economy, took credit for it, tried to blame Obama for everything that was going to happen, even though Trump was basically causing it. But bottom line is, when push comes to shove and his moment to shine came, because I'll tell you, Bush, piece of crap that he was, when 9/11 happened, that dude stepped up. All right, he went right back to screwing things up after that. But when 9/11 came, he let the experts take control, and they handled the situation, and they did stuff, and they moved, and they changed, and they got the country back in shape. They got the economy back in shape in good, sensible ways. We recovered. And I know a lot of you guys probably are thinking like, oh, well, 9/11 wasn't as bad as this because this is all over the world, all over the country, and 9/11 was just New York and blah, blah, blah. But if you lived in New York, 9/11 was the worst thing that ever happened. I mean, you can't even compare, because 3,000 people died right in Lower Manhattan, all in one spot. And I know there are counties probably in America now that have 3,000 dead people from this virus, but losing 3,000 people in one day with no warning, the way we did in New York, and having 2 massive buildings collapse and litter the streets with a combination of the ashes of dead people that you could smell for like a month later, you know, burnt, incinerated bodies is what that place smelled like. And that's freaking depressing. And the economy was crushed. Our phone systems and everything were down for like a week. We could do zero business, completely shut down everything. It was catastrophic. And so that's, you know, and there's George Bush, and God, and you know, God bless it, Rudy Giuliani too. What a freaking job that guy did at the time. He's a psychopath now, but what happened to that guy? But he stepped up also. There's 2 guys who really stepped up in a crisis and did what had to be done to fix New York, to fix this country, get things back on track, so on and so forth. And like I said, Bush went right back to type and did all this bullshit with attacking the wrong country and so on and so forth and getting us into a stupid war. But not really the thing. Thing is, that wasn't what I was criticizing this guy about. But people step up in a crisis. People show their true colors in a crisis. And Donald Trump did that, but not stepping up and but showing his true colors, but not stepping up. And it pisses me off. I mean, you know, he was mismanaging the country in the same way that Bush was inept. But I didn't hate Bush. I just thought he was inept and not a good president. Trump, horrifying. So yes, I get pissed off. I write about Trump. I say bad things about Trump, but I'm sorry. But you can't talk about what's going on in this country and pretend Donald Trump hasn't got anything to do with it. That doesn't work. So if we're going to have a real discussion about what's going on in this country and what the problems are and what has to be done and what we have to worry about in our portfolios and for our planning in the future, his name's going to come up a lot. So anyway, as I said here, so Trump has done to America what he does with every business he's been involved in. He puts his name on it. He spends all the investors' money. He leverages the debt and leaves a useless, dysfunctional shell on the verge of bankruptcy. And then he walks away and claims that the downfall was not his fault. That's what he does. That's what he does with everything he touches. He acts, you know, anybody can take over a business and make it look good for a couple of days or a week or 2 or whatever, and then walk away. Like Gordon Ramsay does that with restaurants, right? He goes to these places, these towns. They fix up this guy's restaurant, spend some money, right? Spend money the guy doesn't have. If it was his money, that would just put him further in debt. So they spend money, fix up the restaurant, buy him a new oven, buy him a new refrigerator, whatever the hell they do. Retrain the staff, retrain the chefs, all in like a day, which is obviously nonsense anyway. That's not how you train somebody. And then because it's Gordon Ramsay, and they advertise the thing and say, everybody in town, come on over to this restaurant. Gordon Ramsay's going to supervise a makeover, blah, blah, blah. Probably they give him free food. I don't know for sure if that's true. But yeah, you fill up the restaurant and there's a buzz and people come for a week. And even if they don't get the free food, the next day, the day after, the day after, the day after, there people are going to be coming saying, isn't that the restaurant Gordon Ramsay fixed up, blah, blah, let's go check it out. That's what you do with restaurants. Because frankly, life isn't that exciting. So when something like, when somebody changes the restaurant in your town, you tend to go and check it out. Like, what they do? Let's try it. So that's what happens. And that's so Gordon Ramsay does what Trump does. He fixes something up. But then when Gordon Ramsay goes away, I think there's like a 70-80% failure rate on these restaurants. Once he leaves and a couple months later, like 70-80% are out of business. Now, of course, they were going out of business before he got there. That's why he's there, to save a failing restaurant. But his success rate of saving a failing restaurant isn't that great. He acts like he's the magic guy. but that's not how it works. Trump does that too. He puts his name on a building, or he gets a project and he builds it. He'll take over a project, supervise it, whatever. But it's not his money. It's other people's money. He gets paid to supervise it, paid to put his name on it, and it's very easy to make something look good and look shiny, like the Taj Mahal in Las Vegas, in Atlantic City, looked fantastic. It was really cool. It was a little garish, but it was, you know, it's kind of cool. And a big, major Vegas-y kind of looking place in the middle of Atlantic City, which was freaky at the time. But there was no way for it to make money. This was the beginning of the end for his Atlantic City empire, because he bought the old Playboy Club. That was the Trump Resort Hotel. Then he bought, or the Trump whatever. And then there was the first Trump hotel was that one, the Playboy Club. The second Trump hotel was Merv Griffin's place or something they took over. Then the Taj, I don't know what he did, where it came from, but he built that basically. And those were like his hotels in Atlantic City. But the problem was the Taj killed everything because it just sucked up all the money, and it was a big, huge money pit, and there was no chance in hell that economically it was going to work. It needed like some ungodly amount of revenue every day in order to function. It needed to make $1 million a day in profit just to pay the bills, that kind of thing. So it wasn't really realistic because you don't get that kind of crowd spending that kind of money on a regular basis. And everybody knew that. We knew it while he was building it. People ran the numbers and said, "What are you, crazy?" But it's an image thing. It's not about whether or not it actually works. And that's what he's done with the American economy. It's not about whether or not it works. It looked good for a little while. He jacked it up. He's jacking up the markets right now. These markets are manipulated. All right. And it failed because his stimulus package didn't get passed. And I told you guys this, I kept saying it, as soon as we don't have stimulus, this thing's going to go into free fall because that's the only thing keeping us up. There's nothing rational keeping this market up. This economy is in a coma and it's on life support. And if you pull the plug, it's going to die. And we got to be realistic about that. And again, it goes back to, it's like, don't buy all these overpriced stocks. I keep saying that because it's like, you know, at least have some value stocks. So if they go down, at least you got something to show for it later. You know, in the .com boom, right? Like how many of those .com stocks were you glad you held on to 10 years later? Like not many. There were some, obviously Google or something, but you know, most of these stocks, they didn't recover. These high-flying stocks, it's not a little correction. When the money goes out of something for a long time, they reprice and that becomes your price. That's it. Then it goes into a normal sector. Things become normal, like GE, like Intel, like Microsoft until the last couple of years when we got rid of Balmer. They're no longer exciting. And anytime you have a stock where you can't support the revenues, where the earnings don't support the stock price, that's always going to be a problem. So we talked about doing DVA last week. That took a hit just now, so that's good. If you want to get into it, it's still there. Anyway, so that was last week, and then today talked about how the resurgence is people are finally starting to notice the same thing I warned about the whole time, that this whole concept of opening back up and doing all this crap was idiotic, and that this is what was going to happen. I said this is what was going to happen. But the problem is, again, we are starting with a base here. The previous base was here, and we went up 100, 250% from the base. This base is 40,000. So this is 100. This is 200, and this is 250%. This is a virus. It only needs enough population to feed off to grow. It's not like a stock that you have to buy it. I don't have to be long the virus. This is a virus. and I've said this before, 90% of our population has not been infected. But that means 90% of our population can be infected. So that means that this transmission curve here is only 10% less effective here. If you consider that this was basically none of our population was affected at the time, obviously somebody was, these guys, but realistically, this is a very low percentage of the population was infected at the time, 1%, 2%, whatever it was. But then it went from 2 to 4 to 6 to 7, right? Roughly, I'm just making that up. But you go from 2 to 4 to 6 to 7. But then you realize here you're still adding, even though these because this is per day. So you start off with this group here. If you think about the area of this chart, right, the area, and then you extrapolate that area to maybe this place here. So we doubled. So in this whole time leading up to it, which was I'm going to guess May-ish. Yeah, Memorial Day. That's when we screwed everything up. March, April, May. So 3 months, this many people infected. In the next, it's hard to say what a month looks like, but let's say this must be 3 months here. So in the next 3 months, twice as many people were infected. And I'm just guessing based on these areas. So the next 3 months, twice as many people were infected. And the next 3 months after that, probably about the same amount were infected. This area seems to be about the same as this area. So about the same amount of people are infected over the next 3 month period also. What did we do? We started clamping down, having policies, so on and so forth. Then we started undoing it and reopening, and this was a huge mistake because now we're working off of this base. It's too late. We already mixed. I live in Florida. I was at a restaurant yesterday with my mother, and it was full. No social distancing, no every other table, full. Me and my mother sat way in the corner, but still I felt like it was way too full. I wasn't happy. And it goes back to the bottom line. 1 out of 40 people are infected. Therefore, in this restaurant where there had to be about 100 people, it was outdoors, but in a 100-person restaurant, there was at least 2 people probably walking around in that crowd who had the virus. So did I pass them on the way to the bathroom? Did I pass them when I was walking to my table? Did I pass them on the way out? Did I come within 6 feet of them? Did I touch something they touched? This is how viruses spread. That you can't be doing stuff like this. And that's me being careful in a restaurant, worrying about this stuff. Most of those people weren't worried at all. They went from there to a bar. Those are open too. Not every state's as bad as Florida, but Florida's ridiculous. They really are acting like there's no virus at all. And it only takes a few states to have this problem. So we're starting at this base and we're being just as stupid as we were back here. We knew there was a virus, but we decided we didn't care. It was summertime. So we said, screw that. We're having fun. It's summertime. And so Memorial Day weekend, they open the beaches and all of a sudden the virus comes roaring back in. And here we are again, boom. And now they're saying, oh, it's holidays, it's Christmas. We don't want to ruin Christmas. Let's all get together. Let's all mingle and go shopping and do whatever we used to do normally. But that's going to take you from this base here to here to here to here, and then you're going to have a chart where this entire area is replicated in 3 months, and that's going to double the people who are exposed. You're going to go from 8 million to 16 million, and then the problem is then you've got 16 million is what, 5% of the population. So it's 1 in 20 people have the virus. And now even if you're real careful, you're going to have a hard time avoiding it, right? There's a certain tipping point, like 1 in 10 people having a virus, where you can't, how are you going to stop yourself from getting it? How are you going to be such a hermit that you avoid contact with 10 people on a regular basis every single day? You'll have to live like Howard Hughes. So that's the problem with this economy. It's not a political statement other than how the frick can we let this happen to ourselves? That's a political statement because you know what the answer is. How the hell can theoretically intelligent people allow this situation to occur? And we've got no clue how bad this can get. I mean, I'm doing this stuff all the time, and I read the most. I don't even talk to you guys about the things I read about. These hospitals overwhelmed, supplies very limited. We don't have the stuff. We can't make enough vaccine. We can't make enough curatives. There's not enough doctors, and we're killing the doctors. You don't realize that either. We're killing the doctors. You can't train new doctors real fast, and who the hell wants to be one anyway? And by the way, realize that we're raising a whole generation of doctors that are doing virtual medical school. They don't actually touch a patient or go to a class. They just take an online course in fixing your heart. With that going forward. So that's crazy. So anyway, so back to the short-term portfolio discussion. So I like so for killing the old short-term portfolio, I like that CMG play. Put that right back. It's too good. And I think Chipotle very much doesn't deserve this valuation. Okay, they're doing well in the virus for a restaurant because they're delivering and people like them and they have a lot of people who love ordering Chipotle, whatever. Fine, doesn't mean you get rich off it. The numbers, they're not going to make more money than they used to make just because people are willing to buy it at home. And you're seeing that in the other like McDonald's and things like that. Just because people are still ordering it doesn't mean they're making more money. They're overall down. You know, I think where's Cheesecake Factory? See, that's one of my favorite. As you guys know, we play Cheesecake Factory, but yeah, see, they're not that bad. But another one I like to buy with. That's one I like to buy with cheap. And Dunkin's going private. See, now Dunkin is right. They're taking advantage of this virus and they're going private because they're like, screw you. If you people don't want our stock, we'll take it. So and it wasn't even that cheap, but they're now just buying back all their stock and saying bye stock market, we don't like you anymore. And you can see why it was down to 40. It's like so crazy. Anyhow, so where was it? Oh yeah, post. So I like the CMG play. It pays off really. It's a very high payoff potential. It's a good play, and obviously if the market collapses, they're certainly not going to be market proof. SQQ, as I said, it doesn't look like a real powerful spread because it's only good for 50,000. Although I'm not counting the fact that we have the MT25, but it's really good for like a 50,000 spread. But we have a year to roll the short calls along, so that means that it's really going to be like $150,000 spread, and who knows what else we can. And of course, we're going to adjust it. That's the thing. It's not static. It's just going to be our primary hedge. I'm going to add a Russell hedge too, but I don't want to add a Russell hedge now when it's down. I want to wait until it bounces. And that's important too. I want to talk about that. So here's the S&P. All right, so if we look at what's going to happen here, we're at 3272. And we know that the bounce line is, well, I say we know what I don't remember, 3277. All right, so 3277 is the 15% line. So that's right where we are now. Okay, we're at the 15% line. So we know based on the 5% rule that that's going to be somewhat supportive. Therefore, since we went from 3600 to 3272, and since that's a drop of 330 points, then we know we're going to have a 66-point bounce basically of that drop. Although this morning I calculated from this drop, I didn't calculate from that drop. But either way, either this or that, but it's either 35, 3600, let's call it 330. and we drop to here, and eventually we're going to drop to here most likely and test this again. So the question is what's going to happen here. But here's what's going to happen now. I shouldn't say it like that because it makes it sound like I know what I'm doing. It makes it sound like I'm 100% sure. But here's what's going to happen now. is there's no stimulus. So what are we going to go up about? Because Trump's elected, we're going to jump up. Because Biden's elected, we're going to jump up. What reason do we have to jump up in the next few days? So what's going to happen is we're going to have a weak bounce. Obviously, the weak bounce from 36 is 330. So it's either 330 or 260. So either way, it's not a very different number. It's either 52 or 66-point bounce. So either way, it's going to be roughly a 60-point bounce, let's say. So we're going to go from 32.77. 60 points is 33, whatever. All right, so that's going to be the weak bounce line. And then after that, you get up to 34. And that's a strong bounce line. Okay, so we're going to hit the strong bounce line. But the 50-day moving average, this one is at 34. The longer we stay under, this is how TA really works. If you wanted to use TA, stop thinking about TA this way and think about TA this way. What causes this line to form? What causes a moving average to do what it does? If this is below, if it's below by a little, it's going to yank that line down a little bit lower. That's the average. If it's far below, it's going to yank it down faster. So if we think we're going to stay below this line, and we probably basically are, and I don't mean never go above it, but if we hit 34.20, I think there's going to be some pretty strong resistance given there's not going to be any stimulus at least until the end of November. And you would hope that before Thanksgiving, they give us some freaking stimulus. So this holiday season is going to be a disaster. But, and again, like I said, we're a coma patient. This economy's on life support. We want to keep up. We want to keep this economy alive until Christmas, but we don't really have a plan after that. Okay. It'd just be nice if we can keep Grandpa going until the holidays, so we don't have to be all bummed out for Christmas, but then let him die. Yes. Families make those kind of decisions all the time, unfortunately. You know, that's because we're really weird about death, right? We are. We don't let it be a part of our lives. We don't accept it, and so we try to fight it, even when it's, you know, pointless. Anyway, again, depressing. So anyway, so the weak bounce line is not likely to be broken very easily, not without a catalyst. Not going to be a catalyst for at least a couple of weeks. Therefore, we're going to stay below the weak bounce line. Therefore, the weak bounce line is going to continue to go down. Therefore, it's going to curve, because the week is all the way over here. This is a week, or I'm sorry, that's a week. So this is a week. So we're not talking about a short distance. We're talking about this thing having an entire week to go like that. And that takes you to the election. After the election, Congress probably doesn't reconvene for another week after that. So we'll be down here, and this thing will be staying below it down here and causing it to be weaker and weaker. And then that starts bringing down, this average too starts coming down at us, right? And it'll come down pretty sharply because this is a shorter term moving average. It'll start pushing down faster because there's a big gap here. It's going to turn pretty fast. Just like this, see the big gap? Look what that causes. Now we have a big gap going the other way. What's going to happen? Very quick path. So this is going to go down quickly. This is going to go down slowly. This will cross below that, and that's called a death cross. And then you got some serious problems. But by then, by the time we hit a death cross here, just when all the TA people are going to be shorting, that's when we're going to get our stimulus and go back up for the holidays. So there you go. That's the plan for the market for the next few weeks. Point being, though, that for the next week, we're going to be around here. This is going to recover somewhat. I don't know if it's going to recover much. We're going to see what happens. And we're going to then add our additional shorts to the short-term portfolio and build it back up. But we're going to do it sensibly. I don't want to buy my puts when we're down here. I don't want to buy my short positions when we're already down here. I want to see what kind of bounce we get. If we're lucky, they'll talk about stimulus again, and we'll go back up here, and then we can start shorting again. Short when it's cheap. Don't short when it's just like now, today, sell. If we're going to cash out of these positions, do it while the market is down and the VIX is high. And I'm calling that, I call that today. Today is the short-term bottom. And this is the time we're going to get our best prices. All right, question time. Let's see what's going on. See, and there's Randy coming in. Yeah, see, there you go. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Randy says, Clinton, as always, it's the cover-up. Yeah. So they're the most evil people on the planet, but they're the best cover-uppers. All right. So Bernie says, can you please review S&P support resistance? Oh, I think I just did that. That was psychic of me. Let's see. Durga says, what are your thoughts on Invesco IVZ? Do they seem like a good long-term investment? I honestly, ask me that in chat because I got to really look at them. I don't follow them much. I mean, I think they're probably decent, but I don't know where they are, frankly. Haven't given them a thought in, I'd say, years. So I don't know where they are. I don't know what their chart looks like. I mean, it says, look, PE ratio says 1269. That's nice. Here's Zacks. I love this because this is written, anytime you look up anything, Zacks has a thing on it because it's all written by computers. It's garbage. It's like, watch what garbage this article is. Investors looking for stock in financial bank sector might want to consider Invesco or BlackRock, which, oh, please. I can answer that question right now. BlackRock's better. Which stock is better? Best way to find out a value stock. See, here you go. Canned language. Blah, 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 blah. Both sporting, and then all it's doing, see, every article, when you get used to it, you realize they all say the same thing. It's just spitting out standard things, fill in the blank here. They both are #1 rated. Emphasis, there's no content to this. Value investors also try to analyze a wide range of traditional figures and metrics to help determine. You can tell that's not written by a human being. Why would you write that in the middle of an article? It makes no sense. It's just filler. It just makes you think you're reading an article when all you're reading is statistics buffered in text. IVZ has a forward PE ratio 8.5. Really? That's bullshit. Well, I mean, maybe it's not. If it's true, then that's great. BlackRock has, and that's why, and again, that's why it's so dangerous that we rely on these kind of things to like make a determination, because you have to look at that and say, there's something wrong with that. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And BlackRock's 19. I will tell you though, I've been off BlackRock. They got fully valued and I lost interest in them. We bought them a couple of years ago. They were great, but now they're too much. So maybe Invesco is a better value. Invesco has a great PEG ratio. BlackRock's PEG, wow, terrible. The lower PEG is better. Value metric, based on these metrics, Invesco is B and BlackRock's an F. Oh my God. So well worth looking at. So do remind me. I'm interested in what that story really is. What happened to BlackRock? Is it just because they're so expensive? They're really high. Look at the number here. Jeez. Look what they topped out, 666. That's funny. So look at that though. Wow. But you know, that's why I don't want to be in stocks that can do that. I don't like that. So remind me of that one though. I'd love to look into it further. Randy says their donuts suck. I assume he's talking about Dunkin' Donuts and not Invesco. They do suck. I got to tell you, it is the weirdest thing in the world, because if I can walk into a Dunkin' Donuts, because my kids like the coffee. Not actually, I'm sorry, just Jackie. Maddie doesn't really like it. Jackie for some reason loves Dunkin' Donuts coffee. She doesn't eat the donuts, but she has the coffee. And I literally can stand in a Dunkin' Donuts store for as long as it takes her to order, and I have no desire to have anything that they sell. There's not one thing there that I want. That in McDonald's, I would get a fry. You know, in Wendy's, I would get a Frosty. I mean, there's something in most places. Dunkin' Donuts has nothing I want to have. It's interesting, and I don't like donuts so much. I do like those Italian things though. They put them in the powdery, those dough balls with the powder. That's what I like. Zeppelis, or I think they're called Zeppelis. Anyway, SK says we have uncovered positions in Intel WBA. Do we just sit tight? Well, unfortunately now we do have to. I mean, so. Yeah, I mean, look, you're going to take a hit, and we did take a hit. Believe me, we're like in the long-term portfolio. We took a $100,000 hit. That's 10% of the portfolio got zapped. We made it up in the short-term portfolio, but that's why we cash out the short-term portfolio, because now what happens? Now we have a ton of cash to spend in the long-term portfolio. Okay, I'm not doing that. I just shut this portfolio down because it had an error in it. I'm just going to start with a fresh one. But in theory, when you make a lot of money, that's the whole point of the hedge, is to move that money into the long-term portfolio, improve those positions, and wait for a proper bounce. The problem is right now, we don't have a clear path to a proper bounce. You can't be sure that we're going to bounce. You know what? When we had 9/11, the fear was that people weren't going to fly, and that was going to damage commerce and hurt the economy. Oh my God! What if people are scared to travel? Now we're not even. Not only we're terrified to travel now. We're terrified to get on a bus, not because it's going to blow up, but because you're going to get sick and die. We don't want to go on a train. We don't want to go on a plane. We don't want to be at an airport. We don't want to be at a comedy club. We don't want to be at a restaurant. We don't want to go to the theater. We don't want to go to the movies. We don't want to go to a concert. This is so much worse. And we're acting like this isn't going to hurt the economy. That's insane. This is devastating. And I will reiterate again that only for the sake of an exercise to demonstrate how you're hedging these portfolios are we keeping these portfolios open. As I was saying all summer long, I would take this whole thing off the table. When, not if, when we break key technical support, I will be hedging the short-term portfolio. And I need you guys to understand this. It's really important you understand what we're doing here. We knew this was going to happen. We are demonstrating how to manage a portfolio in a crisis. We know there's going to be a crisis. I think I've been pretty freaking clear about that for the last 6 months, right? There's a crisis. We just keep pushing it away. It's still a crisis. Pushing it away doesn't make it go away. It just makes it take longer to hit you. We keep ignoring it. We keep pretending it's not a crisis. This is a crisis. And right now, Joe Biden is saying we have a crisis, and Donald Trump is using that against him. That's how sick this has become. Donald Trump's like, oh, he's so depressing. Keeps talking about the virus. Now we have to shut down America, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yes, he keeps talking about how we have to take preventive steps to stop the virus from destroying the country. That's not something you deride as a, it's just insane. Anyway, so this is a crisis. Somebody has to do something about it. Okay. So, we're going to hedge the portfolio for a crisis. We're going to manage this portfolio. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you right now what's going to happen. If you're in this long-term portfolio, which you shouldn't be, if it's money you care about, you should not be playing this game. If you're in this long-term portfolio, which is now only up 85%, it was up 100% just recently. Now it's at 920. It was over $1 million. So if you're in this long-term portfolio, it's going to go down to $600,000. Very, very likely. But you know what? My short-term portfolio, hopefully, is going to go up to $600,000. So this one's going to lose 300, and that one's going to gain 400 because we're going to hedge it. We're going to take these aggressively short positions and make quite a lot of money. And obviously we're not fully on it now with with these positions from today are not the be all and end all, but this position will pay us $80,000. This position will pay us $150,000, and that's it. So we have $230,000 of shorts on so far, and these are spreads. Oh yeah, that's what I started talking about before when I first looked up that thing. So this is a spread. You don't need to do a spread though. Once we start breaking technicals, we're going to go aggressively short. And aggressively short can pay us a huge amount of money in a short amount of time, especially if we have a cascading failure like we're currently having with the S&P. This is a cascading failure. This is a cascading failure. We haven't hit this stage yet. We're just inching down. We're just going bit boop, bit boop, bit boop. But this is not a good pattern. So I'm saying we're going to go like this, and we're going to go boop, and then we're going to go bit, and then one of these times we're going to go really fast, just like this kind of shit. We're going to do this, and then we're going to do that, and then we hit the bottom. But we ain't there yet. We're not there yet because you still are in no way, shape, or form taking into account the devastation of the economy. And how can you? I mean, to get back to the example of it's a coma patient, okay? This economy got hit by a car. It's in a coma, and it's being kept alive. It's the body functions have stopped, and it's incapable of sustaining life on its own. And if you pull the plug, this economy will die. If you pull that stimulus plug, this economy will be dead. Because the stores and restaurants are only being kept alive. First of all, they're being kept alive because we're ignoring the virus, and we aren't doing what we need to do to get rid of it. So we're keeping stores and restaurants and so on and so forth alive by pretending that this isn't making things worse. We're not bailing them out, and even keeping them alive. And the thing is, it's stupid. We're keeping them alive, but not alive enough that they're making any money, so they're still going to go bust. They're just going to go bust over a longer period of time. But that's like also the same thing when you have a coma patient, you keep on life support, they can be technically dead, but you can just keep everything moving until you decide to stop. Because we're not fixing anything. We're only 10% infected, and this is what the problem is. We're 10% infected, and 1/3 of all stores are closed. 1/3 of all retail establishments are closed, including restaurants and stuff. 1/3. Of that 1/3, 60-something%, 2/3 of them are never coming back. They're dead. A lot of the others are hanging on by a thread. As with any retailer, they're hoping to make all their big money back in Christmas. But if this Christmas season is a bust, you're going to see all sorts of things closing down. And then when they close down, the landlords go broke. And when the landlords go broke, the banks go broke. And when the banks go broke, you're totally screwed. We went through this already. We already had that dance 10 years ago. And then what's the answer? Fed bailout, right? Well, we're already doing a bailout. We are not at the end of a crisis. We are at the beginning of a crisis. We're in probably the first 1/3 at the most of this crisis. And we're not fixing it. That's why we should be at the end of the crisis. We absolutely should be at the end of the crisis, but we're not. Why? I'm not going to say. I don't want to be political. Just bad luck, I guess. So that's where we are. Anyway, all right, so what else is going on? Oh, the oil. That's right. So oil got totally creamed. Oh my God, I hope it bounced. No! I had some more. I forgot. Oh, that's all right. Okay. So the average entry is, the average entry is 37.28 because we went down to 37, so we ended up about here with the average. And I guess at this point, so want to stop out. Oops, sell. Oh, wow, that was fast. All right, so now, well, that's nice, locking in a profit. So now I'm back to 2, which is what I started with, but now my basis is down because I made 420 bucks. So my basis is down. I've lowered my basis, so that can be my, so now my new stop, I'm not going to set it, but my new stop can now be way down here at 37.09 to get out even. But now I can just let it ride and hope that we get a bit of a pop. So even though, see, that's the funny thing about it, because even though we were down here, the average entry was here on 4. By getting out and taking a small profit off the table, we're in much better shape. So now we have 2 left with a nice profit. That's how we're working it. Before we had 4 left with a $200 profit. Now we have 2 with a $400 profit because that's just the way it looks. But that's fine either way. You know, with each, I'm saying. So now we're going to hopefully get a bounce up to 37.50, and that would be nice. Because, oh, I'm sorry. So there's a reason I'm doing that, and that's because I read the EIA report. I read the short EIA report. This one will be a surprise to me. Petroleum status report. So look, the reality was that commercial crude inventories decreased by 1 million barrels from the previous week. That is this week, right? Nope, that's not the reason. That's not today. Really? That's the wrong one. See, I can tell by the amount. This is today. All right, so crude inventories increased by 4.3 million barrels, but gasoline inventories decreased by 1 million barrels basically, and distillates down by 4.5 million barrels. So this is a net draw. 4.5 cancels out 4.3, and you're down a little bit more on the gasoline. It's a net drawdown. Why the hell is the market completely freaking out? Oh, why would oil have dropped from 39.75 to 37.28 on a net draw? That's crazy. This report was not that bad. So to me, the odds favor going long, not to mention 37.50. It turned out not really, but 37.50 in theory should be a good support spot. And we'll see what happens. So hopefully it gets back over there. But I can't believe they don't have the new report up. That's weird. It's after 1. Nope, not happening. All right, well, we're stuck with that. JC says, Apple earnings tomorrow. Oh, yeah, by the way, if Apple misses, God help us all. Apple is like the entire market. How likely that a good report will resuscitate the NASDAQ? Not likely. We'll talk about that in a minute. Apple is far from cheap again, but down $4 today. All right, so I think you guys know that Apple is generally my favorite company, but have we played it lately? Not really. And oh, I didn't know how to spell it. Ugh. I think it's fully valued up here. Fully valued being like $2 trillion. No, still $2 trillion at 113 basically. 115, let's say 115 is $2 trillion. It's a lot of money. It's 34 times earnings. So even for a tech stock, that's very aggressive. Apple, again, I love Apple. I think there's going to be Apple Smart. You see that CarPlay is going into more and more cars. The next thing will be Apple Home, and there'll be more and more smart homes that are featuring Apple. And there will eventually be Apple robots and things like that. So yeah, this will be a $1 trillion mega corporation that has everything you could, any electronic item, including something which people don't think about, which is that everybody's going to have a robot one day. You know, I mean, we're getting them now. You got your Roombas and things like that. But I mean, when a robot gets smart enough to be a maid and clean your house and do crap like that, for you buy it for like $50,000 and you have a service contract and you basically have a slave, that's going to be very popular. And you know how I know that? Because I read books on slavery. People like owning people. It's like the song, you know, like people who own people are the luckiest people. It's like people like to own people. It's great. You have someone to do everything you don't want to do. People are going to like owning robots. And it's not a today thing, so it doesn't matter. It's really not, it's not a big consideration in my pricing of Apple. But I'm just saying, whatever as a company, that's where they are. And I say that in the same way that in the 1980s, we said that about IBM. It's like, well, if computers are going to be a big thing, then IBM is going to do it. And if IBM's not doing it, something's wrong. And they were wrong, it turned out. They weren't doing computers, but eventually they get there, right? Eventually they get into it. So certain companies have a focus that they're going to be there to do whatever it is in that field. Apple absolutely is the consumer products company, and they don't think of themselves as a phone company. They don't think of themselves as a video company or anything like that, or a computer company. They think themselves consumer electronics, expert products, whatever makes your life better, they want to be there. And so they'll adapt and they will move forward and they will make smart homes, smart TVs, smart cars, smart everything. So, and they'll be a major player and they will be worth trillions of dollars. So down the road, yes, they will expand and they will grow. But right now, right this minute, Apple is at 34 times earnings. And that means it takes, I mean, 2 trillion divided by 34 is some number I can't do in my head. No calculator. So 2 trillion divided by 34, $58 billion. So they have to earn $58 billion for 2 trillion. So if we want to get them down to a normal 30, so 2 trillion divided by 30, $66 billion, okay? So they have to earn $8 billion more dollars. So that's 15% more, basically. Oh, no, not 15% more. That's not right. Oh, yes, it is. I'm sorry, that is right. So they have to earn $8 billion more dollars, about 15%. So then the question is, okay, so now we say, okay, so they have to be 15% more to really justify, and again, it's aggressive. You're still 30 times earnings, but just to be aggressively where they are, they have to be there. So therefore, I now know my number. They have to grow 15% in 2 years. Therefore, they have to be growing 7.5% this year and project 7.5% next year in order to justify their current valuation. They have to be growing that fast, or this valuation is foolish. So then we go to Apple, and now we consider where they really are, and we take a look at. So here's so 59 billion last year. So they went from 30. So first of all, we want to look at the history. Do they always go up? No, they don't. They go, here's 8, 14, 25, 41, 37, 39, 53, 45, 48, 59. They have good and bad years. Their business is not linear. It's somewhat cyclical. So now we look quarterly and say, are they growing fast enough to justify that kind of valuation? Here's Christmas. So that's a big thing for them. Here's 1922 Christmas, right? Last year though, quarter one, 11.5. Quarter one here, 11.2. Quarter two last year, 10.4. Quarter two, 11.2. Now they have a new phone out, so they might have some pretty good numbers here. Then you'd have to analyze this better by knowing when their phone cycle is also. So will they be the big Christmas gift? Now, it's very possible with Apple. So what are the factors this quarter? They just released a new phone. My mother got one. So obviously it's being pushed pretty hard because my mother has had that. My mother just moved from the iPhone 6 to the iPhone 12. And I offered to get her a new phone. She just didn't want one. But then she went into the store to get her phone. Her phone got a glitch in it, obviously by this time, and they told her that she can get a new phone for free, and she's like, "Oh, sure." And she's got the 12, which is nice, by the way. It has a lot of like cute little upgrade, a lot of nice little things they did that I think are positive. And I got the 11, so it's not like I'm way behind. And I only have the 11 because my 10 broke. Thank you. So it's not like I run out and get the new phone all the time. But I was going to hold out for the 12, but now I have the 11, so I'm probably not going to get anything for now. So anyway, so now they're into a phone cycle. That should bump up their numbers. So we could have a good report from Apple. It depends on how quickly they're recognizing this revenue and where in the cycle that came out and so on and so forth. But overall, this should be a pretty good year for Apple because they got whenever they have a new phone cycle, it's a good year for Apple. But is it going to take us from $58 billion, $59 billion last year? Is it going to take us up 7.5%? That's the question. So are we going to get to 60-something billion, well, $64 billion basically? So where are we? Here's Q1, 11.11, that's 22. Here's Q3 last year, 14, but that's 22. You got to get, what did we say we need, 64? I don't see that. How are we going to get from 22 to 64? How big can these quarters be? Doesn't sound right, right? So unless they have phenomenal numbers now, and Apple doesn't give guidance, another thing you have to remember, they don't give guidance. So unless they have something truly amazing now, and you're able to extrapolate something even more amazing later, like here you go, it will be like this. Okay, so here you go, 11.11, it's going to look like this, 14, right? And then 20. This was huge growth for them. In this case, if we bump up, let's say it's 11.11, then let's say it's 15. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt, right? Incredible numbers. So 11.11 and 15 is 22, 32, 37. We're still 30 billion shy, 25 billion shy of hitting their goal of 7.5% in order to justify their current valuation. So therefore, it is unlikely that Apple is going to have a big beat. So then the question is, how badly are they going to be punished? Well, since the market is in a very bad mood, I don't think Apple is going to get a pass on this thing. And also, they're not too far from their highs. So an Apple, and they've broken through support. They're dangerously below their support line. So we could see Apple come all the way back. Oh, and then you say, well, what would you pay for Apple? Well, I would certainly for Apple, without question. What is this? Why is this like this? Oh, wait, I saw the calculator. Isn't that weird, right? It's blank, but I can see it there. So Apple would have to go, it's 2 trillion divided by 20. So they're not going to make $100 billion. That's not going to happen. So the reality is, if we say that they're going to hit 60, let's say they're at the low end, let's say they're at 64, let's say they're at 64 billion times 20. Ouch. 1.3 trillion is 20 PE. So where would I absolutely buy Apple? I got no problem paying 1.3, but unfortunately, that is 35% below the current price. Is that right? let's see, if we take 2 times 0.35, oh, no, sorry, times 0.7, 14, yeah, around there. So now we take 112, or 113, let's say, be fair. So 113 times the same 0.7, $80. That's a price I would absolutely buy Apple at. Do I think I'm going to get $80? No, I don't believe it's going to go that low. Okay, I don't really think it's going to go that low. They would have to have a disastrous quarter. Something would have to be really wrong for them to get to $80. But 90? Oh yeah, I think it'll hit 90. And when it hits 90, what are we going to do? We're going to sell puts, and we're going to buy a bull call spread. And if it gets to 70, God bless them. Or if it gets to 80, God bless them. And I will buy more, and we'll double down, and Apple will once again become our stock of the year going forward. And I'll tell everybody how great it is and how stupid it is to punish them over this virus thing, blah, blah, blah. But right now, do I want to jump in because it's 112? No, because it's still freaking expensive. This was insanely expensive. That's why we sold our Apple position. This was crazy. This is just expensive now, but this was crazy. This is way too much. $2.4 trillion or whatever the hell it was. Crazy. How do you sustain that? How do you generate the income required to sustain that? How do you get off life support, in other words? You know, you're valuing the US economy based on the commerce it produces. And the commerce it produces is down 35%. But we've injected 20% stimulus into it. So it's only down about 10% or 15%, apparently. But that's artificial. We did that. We borrowed a ton of money to make that happen. That's not sustainable. It's not sustainable the same way that the Trump hotels are not sustainable, the same way that the Taj Mahal was doomed to collapse. Because you can have a great opening, and you can have the place packed, and you can make your $1 million a day, but after a while, just like almost every single restaurant in the world, right? They have a great opening, everyone comes to check it out, and then all of a sudden it gets normal, and they have to survive. And I see that all the time in my town, because I live in a touristy town. I live in Delray Beach, Florida. We have a lot of restaurants, and a lot of restaurants open and close and blah, blah, blah. And I could almost call it like it's like a game. Because it's like you just go down the street, and I look at these restaurants, and I look at what they're doing, and I think about their costs, and I say, can't make it. I just count the tables, and I'm like, you can't make it. You're paying this much in rent. I know what your basic costs are. I know what your food costs are. I know how much money you're making. You can't make it in this town because you think you're going to make it because they're not idiots. They count the tables. They do that too, but they have it. They think that they're going to be packed. But that's not reality. In reality, every single restaurant in this town is a tourist town. So every single restaurant in my town is packed, which is annoying as hell, all winter long. All the people, now not this winter, of course, this winter's been a disaster, but all winter long, all the people come from New York, and they come down here, and every single restaurant is packed. You need reservations just to do anything. You have to get used to eating at 5 or 6 o'clock, or you have to get reservations for everything you do. So that happens to like basically from November until kind of March it ends. So November to March pretty much is when it's like that. The rest of the year, though, the benefit is the rest of the year, and this is why I decided it was a great place to live. Because I used to visit my mom, I'd come down here. The rest of the year, though, you have all these phenomenal gourmet restaurants and all these nice clubs and lounges and things like that, and they're empty. They're at 1/3 capacity, 1/4 capacity all the time. Because the people in the town who actually live here all the time, we don't take it up. I mean, you guys know what tourist towns are like. But here it's extreme. But these guys make all their money a certain time of year, and on the average, though, they're probably half full, the restaurants. But you have to look at that. And these guys, they put these restaurants in, and they think they're going to be sustaining these kind of crowds, and they're not. After a while, things get ordinary. People get used to you, and they show up once in a while. And I see these guys, they put up specials, they have happy hour, they have this, they have that. it doesn't matter. You know, it's just there's too many different places to go. So the U.S. economy, there's not really many places for us to go. We've been forced out of the bond market. We've been forced out of the housing market. They're all terrible, right? You don't have anywhere to put your money. The bank doesn't pay you any interest. There's nothing to do with your money but put it in the stock market. But that's the problem. Everything is being forced into the stock market, and we're stimulating the economy, and we've got a huge underlying economic problem, and nobody's paying attention. And that's why this is so dangerous. But when you look at a company like Apple, one of the greatest companies in the world, and you realize that they're trading at a valuation, and Apple is basically 10% of the stock market. It's 20% of the NASDAQ. It's close to 10% of the S&P now. And when you look at a single stock that leads the market, that is priced way higher than you can possibly justify, like 20% higher than can possibly be justified, you got a problem. So look at your long positions and think about what you're going to do when they're down 20%. And if you aren't happy and comfortable with what you're going to do when they're down 20%, then sell them now, because they will be down 20%. The only way they won't be down 20% is if, whether it's Trump or Biden, doesn't matter. But somebody, let's say, if Biden gets elected, I think it'll be worse almost, because Trump's going to punish us. Because that's the kind of person he is, and you know that. You know he's going to punish us. So he's not going to sign a stimulus bill. He's not going to do anything for America if we make him lose. He's going to be like, I'm done with you people. You don't like me, I don't like you. So, you know, if Trump loses, we got that to contend with. It's not likely he's going to push a stimulus bill. Also, he doesn't want to hang it around his neck. It's just another massive amount of debt that'll be on the Trump legacy. So he'll probably say, I think the next president should decide this. This isn't something I want to decide. He'll make it, you know, they'll spin it to say, oh, I'm not going to sign the stimulus bill because it should be passed by the incoming president, and he can decide. But meanwhile, people can be like, well, what the frick about Christmas? And it's like, Christmas is canceled, baby. Trump loses this election, Christmas is canceled. So, and if Biden comes in, you know, he's nothing he can do about it. He's not president until January 20-something, whatever. So meanwhile, if Trump is reelected, he will immediately celebrate by passing a stimulus bill, and it'll be massive. And so short term, better for the economy. Long term, though, he'll obviously think that his winning strategy was telling Americans not to worry about the virus, not to change our lifestyle, so on and so forth. So then we'll have the incredible, horrible underlying health concerns that we have anyway, and the mismanagement and everything else going on. So short term, not going to be good if Biden wins. Long term, not going to be good if Trump wins. I'd rather take the short term pain. But the bottom line is, markets. So unless Trump wins and they pass a stimulus bill with the House, with the Democrats, don't forget, still have to get the Democrats to agree to a stimulus bill. So Trump has to win, the Democrats have to capitulate on a stimulus bill, and that all has to be done before Thanksgiving, or Black Friday is going to be, that'll start a cascade of retail failures. That's what has to happen for the market to not go down 10% at least. But even 10%, though, like I just said about Apple, that ain't enough. That doesn't bring us into line with normalcy. If Biden wins, no Christmas, still going to get a 10% correction at least. Then it's going to depend on what Biden says. Biden will, he may not be president, but he can still start laying out an agenda and having a transition team and so on and so forth. That might help. But even so, I'd be much more enthusiastic about buying the dip if Biden wins than if Trump wins. But it's going to be a very tough needle to thread. And now we're down 900 points. But this is what I mean. The problem with this low volume rally that we've been having all this time is that there's no base. It's a low volume, pumped up rally where there's no real support to the numbers. And when people turn around and change their sentiment and try to sell, there's no buyers. Because look what just happened, right? Hey, Phil, do you want to buy Apple at 112? Okay, let me check the numbers. Nope, don't want to buy it at 112. Goes to 100. Phil, do you want to buy Apple at 100? You know what? I think I'm going to wait. I'm not really a buyer at 100. So what happens to all the poor bastards who try to sell at 100, at 112, 110, 107, 105? What happens to them? They got no bidders. They have to keep dropping their prices very rapidly, like this. That's what happens when you're selling and no one is buying. You have to keep bidding down, trying to sell to get a taker. So what are you going to do with your portfolio positions when that happens? Depending, and I'm telling you, depending, we have a $200,000 cushion in the short-term portfolio right now, in the new short-term portfolio. We had a $500,000 cushion, but we also have cash that we can throw in there and add to our hedges. So I feel confident that we can hedge a $300,000 to $400,000 loss, and that's what I anticipate in the long-term portfolio. A $300,000 to $400,000 loss. But what am I going to do? Like I said, ideally, I hope Biden becomes president. I hope Trump has a temper tantrum. I hope the market sells off 20%, and then I'm going to be buying. Then I'm going to say, great. Things are going to be tough. We're going to have a hard time moving forward, but here's a guy coming in there that's going to actually start fixing things. And in 6 months, 9 months, whatever it takes, we're going to be back to almost normal, and everybody who misses out, and it'll look like this. After we have a dip, it's going to look like this again. And it's a huge opportunity to buy again. So why, I don't need to get out of my stocks that we have now. They'll go down, they'll go back up. I do want to have cash on the sidelines, though, to be able to buy more so that I can have twice as much when it goes back up. That's our plan. So we're going to see how that plays out. All righty. Let's see. Oh, more questions. All right, let's see. Okay, so Vastel says, Phil, we're very likely to go down. Well, why do you suggest cashing out of the STP? Mostly, there's two reasons. Number one, we had an error in the Tesla trade that caused a discrepancy, so I don't feel good about publishing a number on the STP. Like to have a number again that's definitely questionable. I agree with Alex's calculations that there's something wrong with the numbers, and it comes down to the way that the split of Tesla was handled. But I don't control power options. It's not I didn't do the calculations. Something's messed up internally, and I understand why it happened because the split made it complicated. But not that, nonetheless. So it's a good time to cash out when you have a super high VIX like this and you're getting paid a lot of money for your shorts. Take the money. And now what we're doing, and also as a good exercise for everybody, we're starting a brand new short-term portfolio from scratch that's going to protect us. But when you get a big dip in the portfolio and your portfolio jumps, and it did jump, regardless of what you call the starting position, we were at we were at 484 in the last review, which was only a couple of weeks ago, and it's now 620. So it's up $140,000, $136,000 in 2 weeks. When you make $136,000 in 2 weeks, take it off the table. We might make another $136,000. We might make zero. We might lose $136,000. Take it off the table. Go back to $200,000 total cash. So cash the $600,000 or whatever it is. Cash it, and then go back to $200,000 and take. And we've got $200,000 worth of hedges, and I can make $200,000 more hedges if I want to. So I'm not giving up my protection. I'm just becoming more flexible and less committed to the downside at the bounce point. Now, if we fail to make a weak bounce this week, I'm almost certainly into the weekend going to want to call for more hedges. But right now, I just want to see how much we bounce. So far, we're not bouncing at all. So far, it's a freaking disaster. Look at this. Wait, looks like it's better there. This is terrible. We're consolidating at the lows. That means we're probably consolidating for a move lower, not higher. Down 3%, down 3%, down 3%, down 3%. That's a mechanical move. That's a 2.5% plus a 20% overshoot of the 2.5%. So we've gone to the 2.5% line. We've done a 20% overshoot of the 2.5% move for a day, and we're consolidating at the lows. So it's looking like we're probably heading for a 5% correction here. Another 2.5% after this at least. This is very bad. Now, and you have to think about what can be done to stop it. Well, you could say stimulus something, but the reality is all these, even Nancy Pelosi is up for re-election. Every single person in the House is up for re-election. They're all campaigning. They're not going to come back to Washington and pass any bills. I'm not sure what kind of electronic voting they have set up now. I imagine maybe they have some kind of electronic voting and they can all vote from their houses or something. I don't know what goes on right now, frankly. But it's not that likely that over a series of Zoom meetings that they're going to ram a stimulus in. Maybe the Fed will say something, maybe they won't, who knows? But we'll see what kind of bounce we get off of this line. But if we get a weak bounce here and we break down below these lines where we're at now tomorrow or Friday even, look out below. Then we're going to be adding more hedges, no question about it. So no, I'm not pulling out of the hedges, but I am taking advantage of a massive gain in the portfolio. Oh, and by the way, that was this morning's number. Let's see where we're at now, because this morning the short-term portfolio was 620. So now I'm going to refresh it and see where we are. 687. And then we gained another $60,000 today. So now we're up $200,000 from 2 weeks ago. So what's the question? Why are you taking that off the table? Because it's a lot of freaking money. Cash it out. We're done. Cash the long-term portfolio out too, and you're smart. Why on earth would you risk this? I'm only risking it as an educational exercise to show how we can use the short-term portfolio to hedge the long-term portfolio, etc. It's more educational to start from scratch right now and re-hedge $1 million portfolio, right? Because I'm showing you how you hedge $1 million portfolio in real time during a crisis. That's a lesson it's hard for me to set that up in advance, right? So I'm going to take advantage of it and give a proper lesson on this, on how to do this right. SCO, Brian says, you brought the January 20 naked calls. You were going to buy back half at $2 if it bounced there over $2. And then definitely do that if that was our plan. Was that for the STP? It probably was. I probably didn't enter them in the STP. So again, though, they would have been cashed out, I guess. But if we're cashing out the STP, they'd be included. But yes, we were going to buy back half at $2. That's correct. The iPhone 12 will not appear in the upcoming earnings at all, JC says. Okay, good. But there will probably be a mention of sales. The new phone came out too late this year to have sales appear in this quarter. All right, great. That's good to know. So that means no third quarter iPhone sales, only fourth quarter iPhone sales. Fourth quarter going to be huge. That's, that's a given. But what he's saying there, though, means you're never going to hit that number. You're never going to justify this valuation. You're at more than 35 times earnings for Apple. That's crazy. So that's where I'm looking at. That's not sustainable. Much as I love Apple, I wouldn't pay that price. Too much money. All right, so there we go. Remind me to look at that. What was it that we were going to look at? Because I did like it. IVZ, right? Okay, so yeah, remind me to look at IVZ in the chat room because I am interested in following up on that one. And that's it, guys. I gotta go make a couple of phone calls, and I will be back with you in a bit. All right, everybody have a good day. I'll see you next week.